Welcome into the Cardinals Squad Show. Alex Clancy, Locked on Cardinals. Nick Rallis is back. That's shaping out the head coach, OC, and DC. What grade would you give it? We'll discuss it.
Oh, Donnie Drew and Cardinals on SI.com. Michael Biddle is opening up a new team facility projected for 2028. Is this enough to get people off of his back?
What's up, guys? I'm Jamil Douglas, former NFL offensive lineman. Tony Sorrentino and Matt Schaub have been added to the Cardinals staff. How impactful will that be for Marv and company? Let's go.
Rise up, Red Sea. It's the Cardinals Squad. Everything Arizona Cardinals every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Valley of the Sun. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Gear up and squad up. The Cardinals Squad Show starts now.
Squad Show Friday afternoon edition. Alex Clancy, Donnie Drew, and Jamil Douglas. Thanks for making the Cardinals Squad Show your first listen. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast platform. Jam show today. Nick Rallis is back. The overall grade for Mike LaFleur, Nathaniel Hackett, and Nick Rallis, where is it on the barf meter? Do you see it as something that could shed some positivity and a transition away from what we experienced last year? We'll discuss that too. Tony Sorrentino, wide receiver coach. Matt Schaub, mentioned as the quarterback's coach, former NFL quarterback. Is that going to help Marvin Harrison Jr. unlock what everybody expected him to be last year, this year? And then a new facility is breaking ground in 2028. Do you give Michael Biddle any credit for it? Or are you just seeing it as a pushback on the NFLPA report card from last season? We'll discuss it all. Donnie, Sports Illustrated. Jamil, Jamil. Boys, Nick Rallis is back. Jamil, what does it mean?
I mean, listen, I don't know what it means in terms of, I guess, the interview with Aubrey Pleasant did not go as planned. I'm curious if, they're in the position of, hey, if you take this job, Nick Rallis is going to be, this role for you. And maybe that may have deterred him away, but I don't know. I don't want to give Nick Rallis a bad rap. What I think it is exactly what it is, right? He called the defense last year. The defense, for the most part, I could say was productive until they started kind of just spiraling, right? And so you're hoping out of Nick Rallis that you're going to get a revamp. He's a young guy. We know that prior to this past year, his trajectory for being, defensive coordinator and being a well-respected coach was very high. And so I think what you're hoping out of this is that there's a clean slate. Obviously, LaFleur is going to have his input on how he views the defense playing. And Nick Rallis is a young guy that brings energy that can dial it up. And so I don't want to overthink it, but I do think that it was surprising to me just based off of a new coach coming in and this defense not really performing to what we thought prior to the season kicking off.
Yeah, I think more so the path is maybe what surprised me. I think if you would have told me in the middle of January that Nick Rallis would be retained, I don't think there would have been as much pushback as there was on social media now. And I think it's more so just the avenue the Cardinals took in terms of trying to interview all of these guys. Everybody thought Aubrey Pleasant, for example, was going to be the front runner. Charlie Bullen, Dean Vassell, like all of these other guys. They even interviewed the Seahawks passing game coordinator after the Super Bowl. So it looked like they wanted to do their due diligence. But whenever you're citing in terms of like continuity and play calling experience, if that was really what they were looking for, I don't feel like the search would have been as expansive, right? They had Wink Martindale. Nick Rallis obviously has 3 years of play calling under his belt. I just think you really have to be confident in last year's defensive fallout being due to injuries. Yeah. I'm curious to see what Nick Rallis' defense looks like without Jonathan Gannon in the shadows, but he did call defensive plays. And I'm curious to see what that defense looks like the first 3 or 4 weeks of the year, because unless something drastically changes, it looks like the same as last year.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Agreed. I mean, there's a couple different ways you can look at this. Like Jamil alluded to, one, he was their guy all along, but they were doing their due diligence, which doesn't make sense. If he's their guy, you just bring him back, in my opinion, as you mentioned, Donnie. Number 2, Nobody else wanted the job. They kept him on the back burner. He stayed. I feel like that is further from what actually happened than the former. But either way, we were looking at old or innovative. That's all we talked about. We talked about innovative defense. We talked about Aubrey Pleasant. We talked about Dino Valso, or Wink Martindale, something like that. Nick Rallis' defense is top 5 innovative in the NFL. It was the 4th least static defense in the NFL last year. A lot of that was due to survive and advance when you're playing 5 safeties on the field because everybody else is hurt. But I think a lot of this is, okay, we think if this kid spreads his wings without Jonathan Gannon, he's going to be able to put more of it, just him and his evil mind, into this without Jonathan Gannon overseeing it. I know we called the plays, but still, this was Jonathan Gannon's defense that Nick Rallis ran. So my biggest issue is this is a promotion for Nick Rallis because he's going to be an associate head coach because Mike LaFleur doesn't run a defense. So are you that confident that head coach Nick Rallis of the defense is going to be able to forget what happened after the bye week, or forget what happened after the bye week, and harness the first half of the season and a lot of 2024? Like, that's going to be the big question mark, like Donnie said. Not a lot's going to change. So why do they have the confidence now when they didn't when they were hiring people first time round?
Yeah, it's a dangerous game if you ask me. On both ends, right? On Mike LaFleur's end and then on Nick Rallis's end. On Mike LaFleur's end, you're coming in, you're being the fresh start that everyone wants, right? And you get the opportunity to build your staff. I don't know how much input he has in this, but I would have to imagine that having someone from the old regime has its pros and cons. He knows the players, but also there's this piece of, like, if the defense is not performing, the fingers get pointed real quick in terms of, like, you didn't nip this in the bud early in terms of figuring out who should be calling the defense. You felt safe enough to bring Nick Rallis along. On the flip side of that, Nick Rallis is really gonna lay on the sword here. like he's putting everything on the line. And so you hope that is what brings the best out of him. But he's playing a dangerous game and being the guy that is gonna be calling the defense because of it's a new regime and everyone's hoping for new and innovative, right? And so it's a dangerous game on both sides. I think that the risk is high in terms of where this organization is trying to go, and having someone from the old staff there it muddies the waters, in my opinion.
Yeah, Donnie, before you jump in, I want to ask you this, because I agree with Jamil, but also, like, what we saw from Vance Joseph in 2022 to Nick Rallis' defense in 2023, week 1 in Washington, it was completely different. The intensity was different. Everything immediately was different. So I know that fades when you're not winning, of course. But for me, Nick Rallis was the least offensive of the 3 last year to the fan base. Jonathan Gannon was second. Drew Petzing had to go. There was no way that you could tell Drew Petzing coming back. A little bit less with Jonathan Gannon, but they made the decision. If you brought Nick Rallis back, it's like nobody's going to be, quote, offended by that. It's like, yeah, they gave up 40 burgers after the bye week, but I mean, by and large, in his 3 years as a DC, it's been more good than bad. Do you think that has something to do with it, where it's like Michael Biddle's like, listen, I'm not going to piss anybody off. He's been fine. Let's just run it back?
I think a little bit. And like, we have to remember, before this year, like, Nick Rallis was talked about as like a potential underdog head coaching candidate.
Yeah.
Like with what he did with 2024's roster, and then you inject all of that talent both through free agency and the NFL draft, like, that played into a big reason as to why there were playoff expectations around the Cardinals. Was they were like a borderline supposed to be like a top 8, top 10 defense in the NFL if everybody stayed healthy. Now, obviously, not everybody did stay healthy, and you can make an argument, is it on coaching to get some of those guys on the depth chart to kind of rise up and play? Or I remember an NFL source later down the year, because they used like 80 players, which I think led the NFL towards the end of the year. They said they were using like a preseason roster. It's like, okay, well, how much of that is on Rallis? Like, what ingredients can the chef cook with in the kitchen if there's basically nothing there? So I think it was still like a really crucial balance that Michael Bidwell and I guess Michael LaFleur too had to really evaluate before bringing Rallis back, because I feel like they could have gone with Pleasant. I feel like they could have gone with Martindale. They had their options. So you can argue like the magnitude of those options and whether or not they would have been solid to replace Nick Rallis. But I think at the end of the day, my pause comes with, if we're going to criticize Jonathan Gannon for being too hands-off, he was a CEO type coach. He didn't dive too much into the offense. He didn't dive too much into the defense. And we're harping on the defense as one of the biggest fall-offs in 2025. Why is Nick Rallis allowed back? That's my thing. I have nothing against Nick Rallis. Like, I hope he turns it around. But like, if we're pointing the finger at the defense, this guy called the plays. And if Jonathan Gannon was exactly as hands off as everybody says he was, I think Rallis had a lot more to do with it than some people think.
I think. Go ahead.
But let me ask you this, because I want to angle it this way. Like, with Rallis, okay, and you brought up the familiarity part, and I want to kind of push back on that. Like, for me, for a first-time head coach, you need people, at least one person that you can trust in, and usually that's how it works, okay? And he's got Nathaniel Hackett. He's got that on the offensive side of the ball. Does this, bringing him back, that familiarity only lend to being positive because he's the pathway between the players and the first-time head coach? Like, you've got somebody who went through it last year who saw that they were better than a 3-14 team. Like, if they were all healthy, we saw it in Dallas. That was them fully healthy after the bye week for 1 week. And that was it, outside of week 1. So you could say they were 3-0 when they were healthy and they were 0-15 when they weren't. So, like, I think the familiarity there is a superpower of Nick Rallis. Now, will it translate? We don't know. But Michael LaFleur has got two people who he's comfortable with, one with history and his brother, and the other with the actual organization, the players on the roster currently.
Yeah, no, I think him being familiar with the players goes a long way because of him being a young guy. I think his energy allows him to get this year of calling the defense, essentially. What I will say is, in terms of why he's back, Donnie mentioned that. I think that because of how we projected him early on in the year last year, and there being he may be a head coach someday, like he's climbing the ranks. I think as an organization, you're scared to let that walk out of the door. I think you take the chance with Mike. This is how I think the Cardinals are thinking. We're going to take the chance on this young coach, that being Mike LaFleur, and we think that we have the next, Mike McDonald in the building in terms of a young defensive-minded head coach. Again, you could have went Wink Martindale. I believed, and I was almost told that Aubrey Pleasant was going to be the guy. I was pretty sure Aubrey Pleasant was going to be the guy, and it didn't work out. And so I think that's what it is. I think they're scared to let that walk out of the building, and that's what's kind of giving him this next year to prove it.
So you've played for multiple teams in the NFL, which gives us selfishly a lot of different looks to different organizations and how they are run. Do you remember a time, not to put you on the spot, and if not, we'll pivot, where the head coach and OC weren't retained, but a DC was, or an OC was, and then two other coordinators weren't? This seems pretty rudimentary to me.
Yeah, no, I don't. I didn't play on many teams where the coach got fired, besides the good old Miami Dolphins back there. Yeah. But outside of that, no, I've never. Typically, what I believe in is when a coach gets hired, they get to hire their staff as well. And so I think you're giving someone an unfair advantage or unfair shot if you don't allow them to do that. Now, we could all be sitting here debating this. Mike LaFleur could have been like, I love this guy. I believe in his system. Yeah. And I think that I can help him run this system based on what I know on the offensive side of the ball. And so we could be wrong in that sense. And this could be who he wants instead of a Wink Martindale who will have seniority over him in terms of the football that he's seen. And then Aubrey Pleasant he's a threat in terms of he's going to be a head coach someday. And so Do you want to bring that guy into, your building and him possibly have the ears of players? So I think this is the guy that Mike LaFleur wanted, but I've never seen a situation, at least in the teams I've played with, that have worked out like this.
Got it. And Donnie, one last thing before we pivot to the overall grade for the three new, new head coach, two new coordinators. You're at every presser. Nick Rallis speaks, as much as Petzing does. Was he more comfortable with the pushback? Like, did you see a special in him with his quiet demeanor at all? Or is he, because he's like this guy wearing a hoodie and doesn't talk, he's just like Jonathan Gannon light?
Nah, Nick's got some personality to him. Like he'll like fire back. Like he trash talks players during practice, and like when someone says something, like he'll fire it right back at him. Like he's got like an energy and the juice about him, which I think the players really appreciate. And kind of adding to Jamil's point really quick, Michael LaFleur's game plan against Nick Rallis' defense the last 3 years. So like I think LaFleur would have had to very much be on board with this, and like he's seen it in person. Like he's at least speaking from like a media and like a fan perspective, like LaFleur understands the inner workings of that defense far better than 99% of us. So sure. I do have confidence that if LaFleur gave him the okay to stay on staff, that like he has to be confident in this move.
What's the overall grade? Mike LaFleur, Nathaniel Hackett, and now Nick Rallis is a triumvirate. We'll discuss it next. This episode of the Cardinal Squad Show is brought to you by FanDuel. If you didn't know, get out from under a rock, man. The Winter Games are officially here. And if you're anything like us, you're locking in for events you only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years. And that's why following the Winter Games on FanDuel makes so much sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports you care most about, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected in the action. The drama of curling matches. I don't know. I get told I'm a nerd a lot. I love curling. You take that broom out, man. People get crazy. You get super intense. Speed skating races decided by inches. Hockey games, U.S. women and men are going bonkers over there. They're blanking teams. The U.S. women's team blanked Canada 2 days ago. Even niche events become a must-watch when you're fully locked into the competition, and FanDuel keeps the entire Olympic experience engaging from start to finish. The Winter Games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. All right. Grade time. I wasn't very good in school, but I like to give other people grades. I like to do that. Please go to the YouTube channel, search, I guess, Locked On Arizona Cardinals, Cardinal Squad Show. Hit a subscribe button, man. Hit a subscribe. We're doing this Tuesday and Friday throughout the offseason, 4 o'clock Arizona time. And Donnie jumps in seemingly every show now, which is fantastic. Love seeing Donnie Donuts. Okay. So, Mike LaFleur, Nathaniel Hackett, Nick Rallis. All three, you could argue, were kind of met with a little bit of a groan and then that kind of like, but altogether, Jamil, as the finished product, give me your thoughts and then give you can, you know what? I know you don't like being held down. You can give a grade range. How about that? You can do 70 to 80 instead of just picking one. Just for you.
I'm going to give you a grade. First off, let's get into my thoughts.
Yeah.
I can't figure out the Nathaniel Hackett thing. I understand you have loyalty to certain coaches. I understand that, they've had a relationship and they've worked together. I did not expect it from Mike LaFleur. I thought he would, get someone out of this tree that's younger, and could kind of collaborate with him. I didn't like the hire from that standpoint. I would be fine if he was just on the staff, but I don't like it. The Nick Rallis thing, I'm higher on that than I am Nathaniel Hackett. I do think that, obviously injuries played a huge role in the defense. That being said, his hands aren't clean in it, but I do think him being a young guy, he's got a lot of defense to call in his career, and I think he'll bounce back. I think the new energy will be good for him. The grade that it's to me it's a C.
Space.
To me, it's a C. And that's being safe. Like, 70, if we're talking percentages, we're 74.5. We're not on the 75 and up yet. Like, this is it's mediocre to me. Like if I'm Mike LaFleur, I must have a killer game plan every week going in, and he must know something that we don't, but in terms of who you've hired, it doesn't excite me to the point where I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see this,
Donnie?
Yeah, I think I'm like just right above Jamil. If he's at like a 74.5, I'm at like a 76, like 77. So I guess like C+ might be my grade. And I think on paper, I just wanted this coaching staff, like both coordinators, to have prior play calling experience. Head coach experience would have been preferred for both, but like prior play calling experience, I think we got both of that in Nathaniel Hackett and Nick Rallis, at least on paper. But like football is not played on paper. And Jamil kind of touched on it a little bit, like Rallis coming back, he doesn't have his hands, super clean from everything that happened. Like you can argue how much of a role he did play in it, but like he did have a role in the team's 3-14 record and ultimate kind of downfall. Then you look at Nathaniel Hackett. I do understand the hesitation with him, but he's not calling plays. And like, this might just me being an optimist here, but if he can learn from that prior head coaching experience that went horribly wrong with Denver, and he can just give Mike a little, hey man, like I wish I would have done this. Like, here's what I regret. Here's what I would fix moving into next time. I think he's largely just going to be like an install guy for LaFleur. That being said, like if we get to a point where Nathaniel Hackett has a lot of influence in this offense, this isn't a Mike LaFleur problem. Like this is a much bigger picture kind of problem. To me, like LaFleur is going to do the heavy lifting here. Like he's not going to rely on his coordinators like in total a whole lot, at least offensively. Obviously, Rallis is going to be the defensive head coach, but like what's going to really sway this is going to be Mike LaFleur, because if Mike LaFleur is phenomenal on a week-to-week basis and like he's just truly the next young and up-and-coming innovative guy, then like this is fine. Like you could have all three of us on the staff and it would not be a problem. But if he struggles, as a lot of first-time head coaches do, and Nathaniel Hackett's not really moving a bunch of weight, Nick Rallis is still struggling on the defensive side of the ball, then there's going to be pushback and very, very quick. And he himself is going to have to figure it out.
Yeah, see, that's the main point, is at least for 2023 and 2024 and for 15 minutes of 2025, you could always rely on the run game. There's always something you could fall back on. The defense isn't working, bleed the clock. The pass game isn't working with Kyler Murray, run the ball. There's zero safety net in 2026. None. We cannot bank watching this team do one thing well yet. We don't know. They didn't do anything well last year. They were all reactionary. Pass rush wasn't there. The DB room was good until everybody got hurt. Mac Wilson was probably the best defensive player all year with the most impact. And when he got hurt, everything fell apart. There was no run game. Marvin Harrison Jr. was absent. And Michael Wilson and Trey McBride were the only two where you could be like, wow, they actually overproduced. Now, with this coaching staff, they have to reprove every single thing we saw at the peak of 2024. So with Nathaniel Hackett, I was like, what are we doing here, guys? I was texting my buddies in Green Bay radio, in Denver radio, in East Rutherford. I was like, what is going on with this guy? And I got some not so great responses. But then with Green Bay, it's like they were top 15 offense every year, being first in the middle year there. I know it was with MVP Aaron Rodgers. I know, but it was also Matt LaFleur's offense. Okay. Donnie said it right, where this is on Mike LaFleur. So they made their bet and this is it. My problem with the grading thing is it's got to be on somewhat of a curve. And it sounds like a backing into this answer, but like none of these guys were their first choice, I would assume.
Yeah.
And this is the last time I'll say this. I said this on the morning show today on Locked on Cardinals. This was an arranged marriage. Both of them wanted what the Raiders got, just on the different side. The Cardinals wanted Clint Kubiak, and Michael LaFleur wanted the Raiders job. It's pretty obvious that he left Phoenix without a signed contract for a reason the first time. So with that said, this is their new world, I would give it a C too.
Yeah.
But I think it could be significantly worse with how long they waited for so much of this. Only time will tell.
Yeah. My big thing is like, in my year of watching the Cardinals this past year, watching them closely, and then for as long as I could remember now, what I wanted was culture builder. Now LaFleur, I don't know that he's a culture builder. I do think that he may be right, but how you build a culture is the staff that you surround yourself with. You have these guys that, have had experience at other places that it didn't work, but you could stand on their culture. To me, Nathaniel Hackett doesn't hit that mark. It just doesn't for me. I think it. Listen, like I said, we're playing a dangerous game here because Nick Rallis is from the old regime, and so it's gonna be, he's got to completely submit into what Mike LaFleur wants to do, right? But I wanted someone that was gonna establish this run game. Clancy, we talked about this in the preseason. We don't see a lot of 4-minute offense, ending the game in victory. And so to me, you've got to build the staff around creating that. And right now it feels like, let me hire who's left and let me go to my friends first, because if I'm going to go into this thing, I'm going to go with my boys, instead of let me put a staff together that I know can check all the boxes in terms of where we need to go this upcoming season.
I mean, really quick, before Donnie jumps in, Sean McVay's offense, they run seemingly 120 plays a game. It's like, you look at the box score, it's like, oh, Kyron Williams got 27 touches, and then Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua had 18 catches combined. It's like, how is this possible? I'm not worried about the scheme. They brought him over to white label the Sean McVay offense with Mike LaFleur's stance. So, yes, I agree, but this is far better, where you have that safety net. Even if it's not the guy with the best experience and the greatest reputation, I'd much rather have him than even a vet OC to come in, and then he's just going to have to mold with Mike LaFleur never running this offense or being a part of it. So I understand it may have been just a necessary evil for the Cardinals.
I think it was exactly that. Because Clancy, you already said it. These guys weren't their first choices at both offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. And for LaFleur, a guy who's played under or coached under McVay, Shanahan, and even Robert Saleh for 2 years in New York, there's a lot of guys out of those respective coaching trees that you can go get. There's no shortage of names that you can piece together a staff. Yeah. And so you look at the Cardinals constantly being overlooked and passed on for other opportunities. Is this the staff that LaFleur wanted? Probably not, but he's going to have to make do with it. But I think that's a Cardinals thing, and I don't necessarily think it's a LaFleur thing.
Now,
man, I don't know. I don't know.
There's 70 years of losing. We'll do that.
Sure. But there's also, like you said, like Donnie said, there's about 3 coaching trees that you can kind of pick and choose from based on what you believe in. And it doesn't feel like he went with these hires feel like it was, this person's in my phone book. I know this person will come, instead of let me go and, poke and pry and see who I can gather. Somebody wants to come to Arizona and live in Arizona. Someone wants to come play. He is supposed to be one of the next bright offensive minds in the game. Yeah. You've got to be able to entice somebody with that. And it just doesn't feel like that was given as an option. It feels like he underestimated himself, and he's just let me go ahead and grab these guys because I know them.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Actually, Wicked actually said this. I was just about to say this. Not calling the plays is tough to bring an OC into, especially somebody who wants to level up. I know that Mike LaFleur leveled up because of it, but I think it's an exact science. I think it's more Cardinals than anything. Now, we're going to pivot to Tony Sorrentino and Matt Schaub in the next segment. Really quick, Jameel, you played offensive line. You're even in an offensive line only fantasy football league that you don't let me be a part of.
I'm trying to create it. If anyone's got an idea on how to start up an app, please help me. I want to create it.
Well, let's get right on that. Let's just that's exactly that's the one that'll take us to the top. Justin Fry's coming back, offensive line coach.
Heard that. I knew that.
Are you of the camp playing, especially on the right side where you played, if I'm not mistaken, the majority of your career, how much of a hole that was to the right of Hjalte Froholt last year that was a Justin Fry first year out of Ohio State problem, or is that purely a talent problem? I know it's a difficult question to answer because there's so much nuance.
Yeah, sure. I think it's a little bit of a talent thing. I think you've got to give a guy a second year to kind of get into, and let's call it what it is. For dropping back 40 something times this offensive line held their own. A lot of times we wanted to give them crap about the way they were playing. The run game was non-existent. Well, they were getting blown out half the time, so there is no point in running the ball. This offensive line was not bad, so I understand Justin Fry being brought back into the situation, a guy who's getting his feet wet in the NFL, great college career. And so I think, to me, you are able to build that offensive line with a solid draft pick, which I feel like they're going to go that route. I feel like they're going to go up front, whether it's on the defensive or offensive side of the ball. It would be smart to go offensive line. I think they're going to do that, and I think that gives you an advantage in bringing this guy back for a second year.
Yeah, I think it's Donnie. Do you want to add anything quickly to that?
I think we saw a little bit of progression from Isaiah Adams from the start of the year to the end of it. John Gaines kind of filled in a little bit admirably at left guard whenever Evan Brown just was not getting the job done. So there's pieces there. But I thought he did fine. I'm not upset with him coming back for a second year.
Yeah.
Tony Sorrentino, new wide receiver coach. Matt Schaub, new quarterbacks coach. I've got a theory. I'm going to ask the boys about it, and we'll talk about it next. This episode of Cardinal Squad Show is brought to you by Indeed. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. You hiring? Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs puts the post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. If I needed to hire somebody for this show, probably replace myself. The other two guys are pretty solid. I'd go straight to Indeed and be very specific about what I need. Real experience, not just a resume buzzword. Instead of struggling to get your job post seen, Indeed sponsored jobs helps your listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. So spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get $75 sponsored job credit to help give you the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. All right. I'm curious about what you guys think about this. We just, at this point of the offseason, we just got to kind of read the tea leaves, maybe give the Cardinals too much credit, which is what we always do. We always give them too much credit. But with this, Tony Sorrentino, for those who don't know, was hired away from Minnesota, where he was the assistant wide receivers coach under Keenan McCardell to be the wide receiver coach for the Arizona Cardinals. Matt Schaub last night was hired to be the quarterbacks coach.
Shabby.
So I'm going to ask you about him in a minute. Tony Sorrentino, for those that don't know, last 3 years in Minnesota, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, one of the best 1-2 punches of wide receiver in football. From 2013 to 2015, he was in Jacksonville. If you've played fantasy football a long time, you'll remember that 2015 year when Allen Robinson and Allen Hurts went banana sandwich, 2,500 yards combined, I think it was. I think they had both over 10 touchdowns, and he was on the staff too. That was the Blake Bortles year when he won fantasy football leagues for everybody. They were terrible, but they scored a whole bunch of points. He's been around the natural growth and development of young receivers his entire career in the NFL. To me, I'm looking at Marv. I'm looking at Marv, and you see Matt Schaub, who had Andre Johnson for the majority of his career in Houston. Andre Johnson over 14,000 receiving yards. Like Matt Schaub knows the inner workings of a wide receiver one. You put those two together, I can't help but think that this is looking directly at Marvin Harrison Jr. being like, you know what? If we want to get anywhere, you got to be part of the leading the charge. Is this me grasping at straws and giving the Cardinals too much credit, Jamil? Or do you think there's merit to the history of both of these guys now on the coaching staff?
No, listen, there's a ton of merit. And I'll say this about Schaub, right? I played with Schaub in Atlanta, and we had Julio Jones and Mohamed Sanu, for those people that remember, two guys that were complementary of each other. And so Schaub is a guy that understands the route tree. I cannot tell you how many times I heard him coaching up a receiver from the quarterback position, while we're standing back there waiting on our group to go. And so I think there's a lot of merit to this. I don't think you're overthinking this. I think you're spot on. Sarantino has been around 1-2 punches. These hires are the hires that you want LaFleur to be doing. Like, these make sense, right? Like, these to me are strategic hires. Like, you're getting guys that have been around a good 1-2 punch. Matt Schaub has played quarterback. A lot of these backup quarterbacks in the league, when they do transition to backup quarterbacks, they're basically glorified coaches. And that's what Schaub was toward the end of his career, backing Matt Ryan. It says to me that they believe that they have a 1-2 punch for the Cardinals. They've got to figure out how to make it happen week in and week out, to where it's not, Michael Wilson having the 9 catches for 140 and Marvin Harrison Jr. having 3 catches for 33 yards.
That's right.
We don't need that. We don't want to see it. If you can't figure out how to get those guys both having 7, 8 catches for 90, 100 yards, then you failed kind of this offense, because that's what they're built around, outside of obviously Trey McBride eating as well. And so it says to me that they're trying to figure out every way to make this work with the passing attack with the guys they have.
Donnie?
Absolutely. I think to use the Maserati analogy that everybody loves to do with Marv, like, the keys are somewhere. Like you see the flashes of what Marvin Harrison Jr. can do on the football field. Yeah. It's just like you got to figure out like how to start it, like how to get it going. And like Drew Petzing wasn't able to do that. Like Drew Terrell, like Autry Dunson, like nobody in Arizona was really able to kickstart that. I think getting a guy who is not only worked with guys like Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, but like I feel like a lot of the like under receivers, the guys under them, have like produced whenever they've been called upon too. And then you references like time in Jacksonville as well. But I think it's a solid hire. Like, it's not like a home run hire. It's not going to get people in the seats at State Farm Stadium, but like if you can just get some of that Justin Jefferson magic to rub off on Marv, it'll be entirely worth it too. And like not only looking at guys like Marv and Michael Wilson, but Zay Jones is hitting free agency this year. Greg Dortch is hitting free agency this year. Like, you are going to have to get some of those guys on the bottom of the depth chart to raise up their level of play if you're going to have like a solidified wide receiver 3 and wide receiver 4. And I think that's really where that kind of magic can come in for him.
I agree. Now, Jamil, talk to me about this. Like, there are very few people, in Matt Schaub's position now. I know that, and again, like the disclaimer here, these guys, to talk about like NBA bench setups, they're on the second bench. They're behind the front bench. Like, they're not coordinators. They're not, but in practice, and Jamil can attest to this, like position group coaches are the ones that are in these guys' ears during practice. So with Matt Schaub, he was not a fast man. Matt Schaub, he was not twinkle toes outside the pocket. When you have a guy
set of Jacoby.
Exactly right. So talk to me about that and his connection with Julio or Andre Johnson. And it's like, he speaks the same language as Jacoby. So if you're going to try and write this for 2026, he has all of the characteristics to be able to help.
Yeah. And I'll say this for 2026, as well as bringing in a quarterback, if they shall, bring in someone to compete. Matt Schaub is a guy that he's done it, right? And there were years where he was lighting it up. the thing about Matt Schaub is he understands the game from the quarterback perspective, and he's able to communicate it. This was my locker mate, and so I spent a lot of time just talking ball with him. And what did you see out there? How can you tell this? Like, this guy he's an open book. He loves explaining things. He loves talking to younger guys. I was 23 years old and he was in his 40s. He didn't have to talk to me if he didn't want to, but he did, and he took the time to explain. He's going to be great for a quarterback. He's going to be great in the quarterback room. He's not going to call plays. He's not going to have a say in, what plays are getting called. Obviously, he'll have a say in what the quarterback feels comfortable running, but just him being able to communicate the little things of how to get through a read, or how to look at the safeties pre-snap, those are going to be so valuable. And then we talked about the skill set. He wasn't a fast guy. He wasn't a guy that could burn you down the field. If they're planning on running it back with Jacoby is the same way. He can run, but he's not going to take off and beat you running. He's going to stand in the pocket, a bigger guy, big arm, and deliver a shot. And so I think the Matt Schaub hire, to me, if he's wanting to be in this coaching world, is one of the better hires that LaFleur can do. Before we move on, I will say the biggest thing that Mike LaFleur can do is unlock the 1-2 punch while keeping Trey McBride in the mix. Like, it doesn't matter what the defense looks like. If those three guys eat, the Cardinals are going to win more than 3 games this year because they have so much firepower, and it's going to open up the run game. And so his biggest challenge, the next level for him is, and I'm sure he's seen it, right? He's seen it with Devontae and Puka. Like, he knows how to scheme those things up from listening to McVay do it. If he does that, it will unlock wonders for this offense and for the whole team, because now you can put up points basically whenever you want.
Yeah. Two things to add to that. I think, one, you can't double everybody, right? If Trey McBride's eating, if Michael Wilson's eating, like, somebody's going to have one-on-one coverage. Somebody's going to be open. And I think that's where LaFleur's quote unquote superpower is going to come from. Like, watching Shanahan and McVay do it for years doing so. No, he didn't call plays, but like, he was still like such a sponge and like the right-hand man for both of those guys at numerous stops. So I think it's going to be really valuable. Whenever I first heard the Matt Schaub news, I didn't even think of Jacoby. I thought long term. I thought this was a good hire to bring in a quarterback eventually, whether it's this offseason or next offseason, whatever it might be. Because Schaub, I didn't think he last played in 2020, but he has a modern grasp of what an NFL quarterback should be and looks like, right? Like, this isn't some assistant coach that played in the early 2000s or the 90s where he's been around the block a couple of times. Like, Schaub knows recently what it's like to get into the huddle, operate an offense, and move from there. And I think for a young quarterback, that relationship is going to be so imperative. And not that LaFleur needs any extra communication and, lifelines between him and the quarterback, but with Schaub being a guy who can effectively communicate that, like, that's going to streamline the process so much easier. And the best thing you can have is a really strong quarterback and head coach relationship. And it seems like all of the right dominoes that have needed to fall so far for that have.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, and like, to piggyback on both, like, Sean McVay's offense unapologetically throws the ball to the player who's open. Like, Puka Nacua could get 20 targets in a game. Doesn't matter. Like, I think at this point with Trey McBride, that's going to be the defensive focal point from every DC and head coach the entire offseason. Stop him. Make somebody else beat him. This is a perfect time for Trey McBride's numbers to dip a little bit, 90 for 1,000, 9 touchdowns, and give all those yards to Marv. Like, this is the natural progression of Marv becoming a wide receiver one, if it's going to happen, is this offseason and this year when everybody knows Trey McBride's going to get the ball 15 times. Stop him. Those targets going to go elsewhere, and hopefully Tony Sorrentino and Matt Schaub can, massage this offense as such to allow Marv to eat. Now, the question is, Jameel, you're a Michael Wilson is wide receiver one guy. And do you think that Marvin Harrison Jr. has showed, when he showed his tippy top, that if that gets coached up, that he can supersede Michael Wilson's skill set and need for the ball, by earning it.
I don't think so.
You don't think so? That's fine. I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
Listen, I think Marvin Harrison Jr. will still be your X. He'll be number one on the depth chart, but Michael Wilson's skill set is a number one receiver skill set. The way that he can run routes, he's willing to go across the middle. He high points the ball. He attacks the ball. The quarterback, just watching him and Jacoby in the games later in the year, like Jacoby would throw the ball before he was breaking out of a route. And so you have to understand that a lot of that is just building trust with a guy that that he knows you're seeing the same thing. Listen, Marv is a freak, right? I wouldn't be surprised if Michael Wilson ends up with more targets than Marv. Like, that's just the reality of it. That's not a slight at Marv. I just think that Michael Wilson gives you a more demonstrative route run and catch and everything. And so I still think he's one, but Marv is going to be your X regardless because of what can be, that's just how I view it.
Donnie?
Yeah, I think as somebody who's like unapologetically led the Michael Wilson as wide receiver one train since like his second season. I think he's earned that right to be the top dog. And like Jamil said it best, like Marvin's going to be the X. Like there's no question about that. But it's just Michael Wilson has been making plays consistently for the Cardinals since he's been afforded the opportunity. And it's no coincidence that the more targets that he got, the more plays that were made, the more success that the offense found. I'm looking at Marvin this offseason. I really am, because your number 4 overall pick, there was the generational label put on him. I'm not sure if that was completely fair by a lot of people, but when you're top 5 pick, like you got to make stuff happen right away. Like that's just part of the business, right? That's part of what comes with being a top 4 pick. Marv hasn't shown that. He's shown flashes of it, but like for as consistent as Michael Wilson has been, Marv hasn't been consistent. Marv has struggled with concentration catches. They try to turn him into a 50-50 ball receiver his rookie year. I'm not sure why Drew Petzing did that. Like he gets open on separation, like those deep crossing routes and those comeback routes where he can just create space with his route running and just his footwork, like chef's kiss. But like it's going to be on the floor to utilize him. But like this is Michael Wilson's receiver core moving forward until proven otherwise.
Yeah, I mean the best I can equate it. I go to basketball sometimes when I can't think football terms. It was Michael Wilson's the guy at open gym that just knocks down 15-footers, and he's wearing a hoodie and a backwards hat and maybe Chucks, and he just knocks down 15-footers. And Marv is either going to make 9 threes in a row or miss 9 threes in a row. That's kind of where we're at right now. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the new coaching staff and Michael LaFleur and offensive minded head coach should help Marv just by, happenstance. But we'll see. One thing that will hopefully help Michael Bidwell's, public image, barf, is the Cardinals have a new facility that is no longer a figment of people's imagination. It is breaking ground soon. I will talk with Donnie and Jamil about it as we wrap up here next. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. Tuesday, Friday, 4 o'clock Arizona time. To be some form or fashion of the Cardinal Squad show. Alex Clancy, Donnie Druin, Cardinals writer for Sports Illustrated and The Suns. Jamil Douglas, almost 10 years in the NFL, Super Bowl champion. Where's your ring?
Can't tell you that. Come on now. I can't.
Do you wear it?
No, I don't wear it. I haven't seen it. Haven't seen it since I got it. It's in a safe place.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
What's your social security number? I'm just kind of doing what Ben normally does.
That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Anyways, new facility breaking ground soon. This is the funniest thing, and Donnie, you'll take it away here in a second. For those that forget the timing of this, the NFLPA. The report card, the second one, I think it was in successive, or third one. I think the second one came out last offseason. The Cardinals failed miserably outside of Jonathan Gannon, the head coach. There were some other grades, a lot of F- there, one of which was facilities and, workout facilities, things like that. Not a week later, there's magical report comes out that the Cardinals are going to have this new facility coming out in years to come.
It wasn't even a week.
Yeah,
it was a day.
It was a day? Yeah. So yeah. Michael Biddle was like, oh, no, they found out again. So now, finally, they're putting pitchfork to concrete, whatever you want to call it. Donnie, tell me what the new news is that we heard this week.
Yeah, they're breaking ground on the new facility next Thursday, February 19th.
Not pick fork. Pickaxe, sorry.
Yeah, it's expected to be complete in 2028. It's off of Scottsdale Road in the 101. It's 217 acres. It's going to be a performance center and a business operations center all in the same one. It's going to be 3 full-length grass fields. There's going to be a couple indoor fields that are turf. And then it's supposed to be state-of-the-art everything. State-of-the-art eating area, meeting rooms, all of that good stuff. Desperately needed an upgrade for sure.
Yeah.
Jamil, what's that like for a player?
When you're when you're a current player, it's like, dang, will I be on this team by the time that happens? These guys that are getting drafted this year will probably see it, a handful of them. But I think if anything, it gives you some credibility in free agency when you're building a new facility. I'm sure it's going to be state of the art, like Donnie said. And so that's enticing, when guys come out and they're able to see it and things like that during the process, these draft picks, things like that, all of those things. Like, it's exciting. The players right now don't throw anything into it besides they get to see the renderings, but a lot of them are, hey, am I going to be here, for that, to play in that stadium? So it's nice, but it's really for what's to come in terms of your draft picks and free agencies.
Yeah, and this could also get delayed 3 years if Michael Bidwell wants it to.
Yeah, it's construction.
He's a politician when it comes down to it. He's not. I mean, he's a lawyer, but he's a politician. Jamil, what was the best the practice facility that you experienced over your time with the couple teams you were on?
Best practice facility?
Let me guess. Was it Atlanta? I feel like Arthur Blank takes care of his players really well.
Atlanta was nice, but Atlanta hadn't been the game. Obviously, Mercedes-Benz Stadium had been updated, but we practiced in Flowery Branch. I'll say the nicest one, probably Tennessee when I was there. Tennessee was nice. I love the stadium, and they were building a new brand. Didn't get to see it again, didn't get to see it, but hey, they were doing it, so I got to see the renderings like everyone else. But the good thing about it is, like, when those things do add up, as you have successful years and you've got a new stadium, like, the momentum is being built, right? And so from a coaching standpoint, you've got to be able to kind of weather the storm and get into that new stadium and cater to the hype that's coming towards your organization. So it's a good thing considering where they're at right now.
Donnie, does this say anything for Michael Bidwell at all, or is this going to be swept under the rug? It's cosmetic.
He's doing it. I think you look at the NFLPA report card, like, they were bottom 5, bottom 6 in the NFL in terms of everything from ownership to weight room to strength and training like facilities to even like the cafeteria. Like, I think last year or the year before was the first year where the players didn't have to pay for their own meals. Like, there's a lot of upgrading that this organization.
Thank you, Derek Anderson. Thank you for that interview 10 years ago. Much appreciated.
Like, Jamil can speak on this much more than I can, but like, I feel like having like a legitimate place to work where everything is state of the art, like, you're in the NFL, like, you are the pinnacle of professional sports. And when you look at the Cardinals and like you look at like even like college programs are like just light years ahead of where they're at, like, I'm sure it's got to matter somewhat to players.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you see Arizona State pouring money into, their facility, I'm sure you being in Arizona, you get to see it. What I do hope is, like, you pour money into the new stadium. I hope you don't skimp in free agency. You're still going to have to spend money. Like, the Cardinals are in the phase of business where they're going to have to spend money to get this thing turned around. And so you hope that this is a turning point for Michael Bidwell, and he understands that It takes money to make money, and it takes money to win in this league.
Yeah, we got a couple minutes left here. I don't want to talk about that anymore. That's enough. But what Jamil said was interesting, and this is what piqued this is, Donnie, I believe you were either on my show or you said it here that the Cardinals could restructure to around $60 million. Is that right?
Yeah, so they're projected around like 42 million right now. They could easily get 20 more million from not even restructuring, just cutting players who aren't contributing to them.
So say you're at 65 mil, you've got Nick Rallis back, and then you've got an offensive-minded head coach with the holes that they have. They need a pass rusher. They need at least one offensive lineman. Even me not being biased to what I've said, since middle of the season, they probably need a safety. They need a corner. They probably need an off-ball backer unless they think Cody Simon's going to jump in and play alongside Mac Wilson. Like, what is the most important allocation of funds this offseason? Like number one on the list with a new offensive-minded head coach. Like, does that change things?
No, you build in the trenches. Like, I don't care if it's offense, defense. Like, everything in the game of football, for as much as it changes and for as flashy this game can get, it starts up front. And like the Cardinals desperately need up.
Okay, so
I don't care offense, defense. You hit both in free agency and the draft, both.
Because, like, are we at a point where Darius Robinson is going to be an afterthought with B.J. Ojulari? Like, at this point?
I think you could be that. Yeah, I think you could be in that situation. I would have to say you've got to allocate that money to the offense in terms of the offensive line. The reality of it is, if you can't protect the quarterback, you can't win games, and no other quarterback is going to want to come here if, you're top 5, top 10 in sacks every year. Another thing that is huge, I don't care how much money you have to spend. What makes the Rams so good is they hit on draft picks.
Yeah.
You have got to hit on this year's draft picks. They've hit on a Cooper Kupp, a Puka Nacua, like guys that have been in the 3rd, 5th round. Obviously Jared Verse, but even Finch, the other D tackle, like you've got to hit on guys that are going to contribute and last for you. That will allow that money to stretch out a lot longer and get you a lot more pieces, So what has made the Rams so good is they've been able to hit on draft picks. Now, they've got to do that here with the Cardinals as well.
Yeah, I mean, for an exercise, because you're right. I mean, and that's, what you've been pining for through Steve Keim, which didn't work, and all this stuff. They just didn't hit on draft. It's like, well, how are you so far behind? Well, you can't keep anybody on the roster that you drafted. For me, like if I were to pick, I like to do brain exercises on this show. If you had to pick free agency on only one side of the ball and draft on only one side of the ball, you took all the money, you spent it in free agency, it had to be on offense or defense, and the opposite for the draft. I would much rather spend every single dollar on the offense this offseason and then draft a bunch of young defensive players again. Because that means you could get the best pass rusher available at 3. You partner along with Josh Sweat. You bring in some corners, safeties, whatever it is, off-ball backers, and you fortify what's supposed to be the strength of this team, which is the offense, because you hired Mike LaFleur.
Yeah, right? You're spot on. I agree. I wouldn't change anything about that. It's a good point.
Well, damn it. Why? We have 3 minutes left.
I mean, I could have disagreed with you, but then I would have had a hard time figuring out why I disagree with you. I think, Donnie, save.
I think
I agree.
The defense, even going back to last offseason, like they spend every bit of capital on free agency in the NFL draft. Like all but one draft pick went to the defensive side of the ball. And I think for that to continue, like not only is that good, but like Jamil said, like you got to hit on those guys. Like it's with Monty going into year 4, hiring another head coach, like the leash is shortening. Like you have to start doing it. And like, I'm not one of those people that have been extremely critical on Monty. Like, is he a great GM? No. Is he better than like some people want to give him credit for? I do think so. But like, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and like everybody gets healthy, like again, like we're falling back into the cycle of, man, this defense can be so good, but that's only going to get there if they hit on the draft picks.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and we're wrapping up here. Like it stinks. I mean, this offseason just started. It seems like we've aged 10 years because we waited so long for all these boxes to get checked. But It's going to be cautious optimism this offseason. There's going to be a lot more in the fold when we see the free agent class, who the Cardinals can get to sign here, who they're going to bring back, who they're going to let go, and then going into the draft. Like, I feel like the Cardinals roster is going to be far more ready for 2026 than people think now because of what happened after all the injuries last year. You guys agree with that? Or like, and there's going to be a lot of question marks still, especially with the third-year guys, Max Melton and guys like that, but
I mean, the roster wasn't bad last year.
Right.
You know?
So if everybody's healthy, you get another cycle, you get fresh blood with the head coach and OC. I don't know, man.
There's hope in there's hope in your veins is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. I don't want it there yet. Okay.
I
did this all year. We did it every day last year. Damn it. Donnie wrote articles every day last year, 5 or 6 times a day. And we saw the crap box product that went out for 18 weeks last year.
Yeah, you just got to pace yourself. It's a gradual climb, Clancy. Gradual climb.
I knew you were part of the show for a reason. I can learn from you. Give me my Sherpa. Jameel Douglas, Donnie Drew, and Alex Clancy. We are the Cardinal Squad Show. We'll talk to you next week.
Rise up, Red Sea. It's the Cardinals.
No, that was the intro. See you guys.
That was cool.
You know, dude, you know me.